How do you install TOSOT's 3-ton floor standing mini split system? Today I'm showing you a step-by-step guide to install this type of air conditioning system. This is a heat pump. It heats down to -13 degrees. It's very efficient, and today you're going to learn how to install it. You're watching Taddy Digest. This is HVAC Tips for Technicians. I'm Tad. Let's get started. This is how it arrived. Let's unbox it. See what's inside. This actually was covered with that box, and then they covered it up with another box just to make sure that it's protected. There is no damage, so that's nice. This is the outdoor unit, and looks like we've got a manual right here. That's good. I always like to have a manual. Looks like we've got a power cord for the outdoor unit. We've got a drain tube, line sets, our larger copper line, our smaller copper line, and then it looks like we've got a sleeve. This is the floor standing unit. So this is the indoor section. Very cool looking. Let's go ahead and put the outdoor unit and the indoor unit in place where we want to install it, and then we're going to start the install. Got our outdoor unit placed on the pad. The pad size is 18 inches wide by 38 inches long, and our pad is about 3 inches in depth. Make sure you know your minimum distances. When you're setting your outdoor unit, you want a minimum distance from each side to any walls that you have next to the outdoor unit. I've got about 12 inches right here, so that's going to work out perfect. Now, if you want to take off the covers for your electrical connections and your refrigerant pipe connections, you want to have a Phillips screwdriver. I'm using a Phillips bit and a drill. These are our electrical connections right here. Here's our terminal block. Down below, we've got our suction line service valve, our liquid line service valve. Now, this unit is 20 SEER. Look at this, 21 SEER. That's awesome. Very small footprint for a 3-ton outdoor unit. It's incredible. Right here, we see our tag. We're using an A2L refrigerant, R32. And then down here, you'll see the max breaker size. Max breaker size is 35 amps, incredible. And then minimum circuit ampacity is 24. So we're gonna be using around 20 amps when running this unit, and that is pretty impressive. So now that we've set our outdoor unit in place and talked about minimum distances and how to remove the covers, let's go inside, look at the placement of the indoor unit. Right on the other side of the wall, we've got our indoor unit placed. And to take the front cover off where you would change your filter, you need to take these little cover pieces off right here that you can pop out. Here's one, and then there's gonna be a Phillips screw behind it. And then same thing for this side. We got this piece here and a Phillips screw in there that we took out. Now we're gonna take this cover off. Move it out of the way. You see there's a large removable filter which you can wash and then put back in. Super impressive. I love this already. Now inside, we've got our electrical connections and our piping connections for our refrigerant lines, and we've got our drain. Our electrical connections are behind this cover panel here. We've got a drain tube, we've got a wireless remote controller, and then we have a manual, so that's good. Look at this large fan. That is impressive. And then there's a sensor. There's some cardboard right here that we need to remove. It's got our power cable. This goes between the indoor and outdoor unit. So this is our power that comes from the outdoor unit that actually powers our indoor unit. Remove the cover to get to your electrical connections. We've got 1, 2, 3 Phillips screws. Then we can remove the cover plate. This is our terminal block for wiring up the indoor unit. We've got terminals 1, 2, and 3, so super simple. Then for routing the refrigerant lines, we got several choices. We can either build a stand, set the unit on the stand, and then run the line sets out this hole. We have a hole here. This cover can be removed. On the right side, we've got a hole here. This can be removed, so we can run those refrigerant lines out of the left side, and then we've got one here in the back. I move the unit over. I'm actually going to come out this side here, and then I'm going to bend my line sets, and they're going to go out the same hole that was used for the line sets for the older unit. So over here, we've got our little knockout. So we can actually lift this up like that and then take out that piece of plastic so we have enough room to route our line sets through that hole. Here's the line sets included with the system. We've got our larger 5/8 line. We've got our smaller 1/4 inch line. They're 16 feet, both of them, and I love what TOSOT did. At the connection area, we've got our copper looking like a spiral type of spring. This makes it easier to bend because with 5/8, without this, you're gonna have to use a tubing bender. If you don't know how to use a tubing bender, I'll put a video down, the link in the description. So this is gonna be great. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll this copper out, roll out what I need, and then I'm going to slide this in through my sleeve like that. And then I'm gonna roll out my 1/4 inch and slide this through my sleeve. And then I'm gonna go ahead and hook up the refrigerant lines at the indoor unit first. All right, let's route our copper into the indoor unit. I love how easy this is to bend. This is nice. Oh, that's awesome. Got our line sets routed into the indoor unit. I'm gonna put this insulation back on. Now let's see if, oh, we got some noise. We got dry nitrogen in the indoor coil. That's great quality control. I love that. Anytime you remove these caps, and you don't hear that sound, that's not good. That means you may possibly have a leak. So we're gonna go ahead and take these caps off. Ooh, that's tight. Oh, definitely put another wrench on that. So take both these caps off. We removed all of the covers from our flares and then from our connectors here, and the flares look really good. Sometimes when you get line sets, I know in the past from other different distributors, brands, the flares are no good and you have to re-flare. So I like seeing this, less work for me in the field. Easy to connect, but we want to use a digital torque wrench, which I'm going to use for the tightening of these flare nuts. I'm just going to get it hand tight first. All right, now we're going to look at the torque table. So we've got our 1/4 inch line, foot-pounds is 12 to 14, or nanometers 15 to 20, and then 5/8 is 45 to 47, and then 60 to 65. So we're going to use foot-pounds, and we're going to go to in between 12 and 14 for the 1/4, and then in between 45 and 47 for the 5/8. So let's do the 1/4 first. It's on there. Now notice the screen. And what are we at? What are we at? What are we at? What are we at? There's 12, 13. Beautiful. Now if you do this, the chances of you having a leak are less likely. So that's what we want. We don't want leaks in flare connections. What we got here? What do we got on our screen? It looks like, oh, that's 47. So, okay. We hit 47. So we're good here. Now, for routing your wire from the outdoor unit to the indoor unit, of course, we want to go in the same hole that we use for our line sets, or maybe you want to go in a different hole. We've got 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, and we can remove this cover. I love this. We've got a little raceway, so we can even use this zip tie if we want. If we don't want, we don't have to, but I think since it's there, I'll go ahead and use it. Now, routing that wire up and then in through our knockout. Now we can land these wires and then route this out to our outdoor unit right here, see? There's the other end. Beautiful. I'm gonna land these wires. I've got all my wires landed. I like that they have these little sleeves that are color coded, so I just matched the blue with the blue, the black with the black, and then the brown sleeve that's covering the red wire with the brown. So we're gonna match it the same at the outdoor unit. We used a tubing bender on the line sets, just the 5/8. We're able to bend the 1/4 inch very easily, but I used a tubing bender and bent that 5/8 line at 90 degrees. That way I could loop the line sets behind the unit. Anytime you have a line set length that's less than 10 foot, you wanna put a loop in it because that's gonna reduce noise and vibration. So, and it looks better since it's behind the unit. So now I'm gonna take my flare nuts off, and we're gonna take our little protective covers. Check your flare connection. Check your flare. Looks good. We're gonna hand tight, and then we'll use our digital torque wrench. Make sure you don't cross thread. That would not be good. I'll get this tightened up. We'll move to the next step. Make sure you remember the torque values that we used earlier. We're gonna use those same torque values. So this one should be in between 12 and 14. There's 13. And then we're gonna tighten up the larger flare connection. Where are we? In between 45, I think we just hit it. Yeah, 45. Beautiful. We're gonna hook up our power supply for the outdoor unit, which is 230 volt. You wanna use a minimum wire size of 8 augs. So I've got 2 hots and a ground, so 8 2-wire. And then we've got our power supply for the indoor unit. So what we're gonna do is take our hammer, our flathead, and I'm gonna knock out these knockouts. You may wanna put the power cable that powers the indoor unit in conduit, especially if you're doing this job and you gotta pull a permit. You can use this connector and not use conduit if this is at your home and you're not worried about a permit or passing an inspection. I went ahead and put it in conduit, 1/2 inch conduit and a 1/2 inch straight connector. And then for my other hole, I noticed both of these are 1/2 inch. So what I did was I used a unibit and a drill or something called a stepper bit to go ahead and make this hole bigger, because this is 3/4 conduit and I don't want to change my conduit size because it's already there. So I'm going to get these wires connected and I'll show you the end result. So this is the power wire that was sent to wire up to the outdoor unit L1 and L2. This is only number 12. So anything over 20 amps, we shouldn't be using this. That's the reason I used number 8. Now, if you want to use number 10, you may want to put a 30 amp breaker in place of the 35 that this calls for. But I don't advise that. I just advise using number 8. I had to go to town and get some spade connectors because I didn't have any. But this makes it to where I have a good connection, because you cannot put the number 8 wire underneath these lugs. You're going to end up causing an issue, not having a good connection. So now I'm ready to land the other wires. I'm going to get those landed, and then we're going to start with our nitrogen pressure test. Got the wires landed. You can see we've got blue, blue, black, black, brown, brown. This is polarity sensitive, so do not put the blue on 3 and outdoor and then put it on 1 indoor. It will not work. This uses current loop communication, so make sure it looks like this. Now, we've connected our 1/4 inch to 5/16 adapter. We've got our hose connected to our manifold gauge set. I've got these new digital set of NAVAC gauges, super cool. And I've got it connected to my nitrogen tank and my regulator. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some nitrogen into the system. Look at that. I like to at least put 300 PSI. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna soap test these flare connections, inside and outside. We wanna make sure we don't see any bubbles. If we do, that's an indication we have a leak. If you're using the digital torque wrench and you're using the torque tables and torquing these to spec, then you're less likely to have a leak. We can also take and set this on 300 PSI, and then we can let it set for 30 minutes. And then if the gauge goes down in pressure, then we know that's an indication that we've got a leak. So I've soap tested the outdoor connections. Let's soap test the indoor connections. Soap testing our indoor flare connections. I'm glad that I had the hole in the wall. That way I didn't have to use a hole saw, so it saved me a little bit of time, but you'll need a hole saw kit, and you'll need at least a 2.5 inch hole. Also, the wire from the indoor to outdoor unit, that power cable that powers the indoor unit, I just took the rest of it and rolled it up in here, and that's nice because I don't have to have it outside and bundled up and looking unprofessional. Let's check and see, do we got any bubbles? Looks like we don't have bubbles, so let's just let it set and see if the pressure goes down. We've released all of the nitrogen that was inside the system, so now we're ready to pull a vacuum. I've got my little adapter cord hooked up to my disconnect, so I didn't have to pull an extension cord all the way out here. So now we're gonna hook up our yellow middle hose to our new vacuum pump. I got one of these smart vacuum pumps from NAVAC, super cool. Looks like power buttons right here. We got a ballast on top. This is where we put our oil in. Super nice. We can even do an oil test. So you can test to see when you're ready for your oil to be replaced. So cool. All right, so now we're gonna hit the start button. It's got a timer on it. You can see it's pulling some moisture out. Make sure you use a micron gauge, and you want to pull down to at least, I'm going to say 500 microns. 250 microns would be really good. So make sure you use a micron gauge. You can see on my gauges, look at this, -30. So we can tell it's pulling into a vacuum. While I'm waiting on the vacuum pump, I went ahead and connected the drain tube to my indoor drain line. The connection is tight, and then I've got the drain coming right out of the back of the unit and going outside. How do we know the vacuum pump is done? When it's achieved the micron value that we're looking for, whether it's 300, 400, 500. An old school trick is you take and listen to the pump sound, and if you close the valve, right, and it doesn't change sound, that's an old school trick to know if it's done or not. Now, remove the caps for your service valves and open up your larger line first. You'll hear that refrigerant being released and traveling through the line sets from that outdoor unit. The outdoor unit comes pre-charged for the line sets. And of course, that indoor coil. Open those valves all the way. Then put your caps back on. Now we're going to plug in our disconnect. We're using a non-fused 60 amp disconnect. That's what I recommend. Make sure you have a 35 amp double pole breaker. Breaker's on. I'm going to check between 2 and 3 and see if we've got 230 volts. Let's see, do we have 230 volts? Yep, we got 240. So we've got the power that we need in between 1 and 2. We should have some jumping DC voltage. That's our communication. Make sure before you start up the system that you put the covers on. We're going to do that in just a minute, but I just want to see this wheel right here spin. So we got a couple choices. We've got the app. We can use an app so we can actually control this system with our phone. That's very cool. And it looks like there is a QR code. So you can scan that QR code and download that app. Works with Android and iPhone. We should be able to use the power button here, right? Oh, we can. And we can use the remote controller. So turn it on, and then we've got several modes. Looks like we got cooling, dry dehumidification, we got heating, we got auto mode. So I'm going to put it on the snowflake, which means cooling. Turn the temperature down, look at that. I'm gonna turn it down to 61. And then now you can see the vanes open up. We've got our coil in there. This is so cool. I'm very impressed. Look at this. Wow. All right, I'm gonna put the covers back on. Let's go outside, look at the pressures, and let's see what our temperature split is between the return and the supply air and see what this unit is capable of. Now we're in the cooling operation. Let's check out the pressures and the temperatures. Low side gauge is 128 or 129 with a saturation of 44. Our suction line temperature is 50. So we got about 6 degrees of superheat. Let's see what our liquid line is. It's 60, so 50, 60, 10 degree split. Now let's look at our outside air temp so we can get our condenser split. 72 degree outside air going in, or 73. And then our discharge air is 83. So we got a 10 degree condenser split. Now, let's take these NAVAC probes and go inside. We're checking the temperature split. So let's measure the return air temperature. That's the air the unit's pulling in. 70, all right. It pulls in air on this side. Looks like pulls a little bit on the bottom too. So pulls it on this side, pulls in on this side. Very cool. Ooh, that feels cold. Now supply air temperature. It's going down. Let's see what it stops at. I bet it's gonna be right at 50 probably. Be nice if it was lower, but 50 is ideal. 20 degree temperature split is what we want. 20 degrees. Still going down. It's still going down. Okay. 21 degree split. Can you control these vanes? Oh, no. They oscillate. What about the inside vane? Whoa, dude, vertical and horizontal vanes both move. That is cool. This thing is awesome. I love this. They include this little rope or chain here, and this is to keep the unit from falling over or collapsing. So I'm going to show you how to install this. So you're going to take the screw out of this little middle hole here in the back of the unit, and you're going to put it down through this piece, and then we are going to screw it back in like so, get it tight, and then I've got another screw here. Put it in there like this, and then now it's not going anywhere. Now let's test the heating mode. Power on. Let's go to, yeah, that's the sun icon, so that means heat. It looks like it's 68. That's cool that it displays room temperature too. That's so awesome. All right, we're gonna put it on 80. And let's see what our temp split is and our pressures. Now let's see our pressures in the heat mode and our temperatures. So pressure on the now hot gas line is 339 or 338. Our hot gas line temperature is 126. Looks like it's going up. And then our liquid line temp is 90. All right, now let's look at our split. Pulling in 71 degree air into our outdoor coil. What's our discharge temp? 61. So 10 degrees. Here's our return air temperature. It's pulling in 74 degree air. And then supply air temperature is 101.8. Wow. Let's see. 102. Wow, we've almost got a 30 degree split in heating, which is what's expected from this equipment. So this is a high efficiency heat pump. Works down to negative 13 degrees in the heating mode. As far as the operation, what comes on first in what mode? In the cooling mode, the indoor fan will run first, and then the outdoor unit will kick on. There's a 3 to 5 minute delay. In the heating mode, the outdoor unit will run first. And then once the coil temperature reaches a certain temp, 90, 95, 99, then the indoor fan will run. And in the heating mode, the reason that it operates that way is so that you don't have a cold draft. What applications do I see this being used for? I see this being used in big open areas because we got that 50-foot throw for the air, so we can feel the air at 50 feet. So maybe garages, shop buildings, maybe a basement, maybe a gymnasium, and the list goes on. Let's talk about maintenance. So maintenance is super simple. Take the bottom cover off, slide your washable filter out, wash it, let it dry, and then slide it back in. The only other thing you need to do for this piece of equipment is you need to take a shop vac to the drain outside every year. That way you don't have water running in your floor. Because if your pan gets stopped up, your drain line gets stopped up, then the water is going to run out of the unit onto the floor instead of going outside out of the drain line. If you need a floor standing type mini split like this, go to TOSOTdirect.com, use discount code TADDYDIGEST, and you can get 10% off. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and smash that bell, ding, so you know what I'm doing. I hope you liked the video. I hope you learned something. If you did learn something, let me know what it was down in the comments. If you got a question, remember questions can lead to new content. So if you got a question, put it down below. If you don't have a question, that's okay. Let me know who you are. Let me know where you're from. You want more videos like this? Go check out my playlist, HVAC Tips for Technicians. I've got hundreds of videos of live experience as a technician in the field to help you be a better technician. You've been watching HVAC Tips for Technicians. This is Taddy Digest. I'm Tad, and I'll keep you cool if you let me.